Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 38 of the Clutch Dump. We have a brand new automotive episode, which I know y'all have been sitting there waiting with a bated breath for the next installment. But we are here. We have automotive news worth sharing. We have a lot of it. And we're introducing a new segment called Auction Spotlight. We may change the name down the road. But nevertheless, we are here. And most importantly, guys, make sure, if you want to stay up to date on everything that's going on in the world of the Clutch Dump, follow us on Instagram at the Clutch Dump. And then follow us if you're listening to this on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. We are on all of them: Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and some other probably black market pirated podcast platform. And then also make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, like the video, and ring that notification bell. We are actually recording this one at 10:30 in the morning because Ben missed his class. It is Mandalorian Season 3 premiere day, so I'm drinking out of my Mandalorian mug to honor the occasion. And I'm joined by our lovely co-host wearing the only other Valentino Rossi hat he has.
This is true.
Ben
Until
Walker.
April, when I buy a new one, probably. Hi, Nick. How's it going?
I am good. How about you?
I'm doing swell. Now, Auction Spotlight. Name, subject to change.
Definitely.
For sure, because that's kind of just, well, it's a bit too what it is.
Auction auspices?
Something like that. And this basically comes about from the fact that Nick and I both have a
No money.
no money and a crippling addiction to online auction websites. This week marks actually a very big sale for one of those auction websites, which we will get to in a bit. So Nick and I have both gone through and picked three auctions going on right now, or auctions that just finished.
That are our favorite.
That are things that if we had money, we'd probably spend money on.
Certainly.
Most of which from Bring a Trailer. I cheated and picked one that's from RM Sotheby's. Nick, do we want to talk with whatever the heck that first thing is?
Yeah, so the first Bring a Trailer spotlight that I want to put under the spotlight. It's sold for 45 grand. Oh my god. So apparently this finished, but it is a
apparently it's
go-kart.
Very expensive.
It's a 48cc go-kart. And you're going to say, okay, who could care? It is an exact replica of Sterling Moss's 300 SLR that he won the Mille Miglia in, with the plaid seat centers in the go-kart. Aluminum, signed by Sir Sterling Moss himself. And listen, if I was a kid, I would love to have that go-kart.
No. If I was an adult, I would love that. Okay, so I didn't look at this too much. Like, I saw it. I scrolled past it on Bring a Trailer. Have you actually looked at, like, how detailed and nice this is? It is nuts. I'll put some pictures up, but, like, the floor is carpeted. The pedals are textured. Like,
the steering wheel center has the plaid.
It's actual diamond-stitched leather seats. It's, like, actual wire-spoke wheels. It's actually painted with a real Mercedes badge, and there's, like, machine work, and it's actually, like, it's not like a fiberglass body. This is very nice, very true. Wow, Nick, okay, this is a good pick. I actually did not look at this too detailed, and
I'm glad.
It's really nice.
That's a good start. The fact that Ben and I agreed on the first thing we've brought up is a good sign.
I mean, that is incredibly detailed. Wow. Okay. Would I spend 45 grand?
No.
I don't. If I owned a 300 SLR, yes, I would.
Well, right. If you have a 300 SLR, money is no object.
Money is quite. Yeah, that's true. If you have a 300 SLR, money is not something you have ever thought about. But I mean, that's so cool. It would make, like, I don't know if it'd be a good living room piece, because it's a bit too big for a living room. Like, maybe like a man cave piece.
One of the comments was, I was going to buy this for my 6-year-old, but instead I got her 2021 Mercedes C-Class.
That's hilarious. Honestly, Bring a Trailer, the comment sections are hilarious. Like, it's so big now that people, well, like us who just peruse, go and comment funny
That's
stuff.
the thing my dad was saying, is because he remembers when Bring a Trailer was just an infant in the auction space. And he was like, it was literally for kind of under the radar,
right?
like good finds that, as the name says, bring a trailer. Just pull up, grab it, make it a project. But now it's like we have one of one signed by everyone who's ever been relevant in mint condition. That's won everything. And you're like, wow, okay, Bonhams. All right, Ben, which pick do you want to use of yours first?
Well, I am going to start with a very special auction that is going on right now for charity, and it is a 1973 Datsun 240Z. It is up on Bring a Trailer. And the important bit about this Datsun is if you saw a picture of it, oh, it's a very nice Datsun. It's a very bright shade of green or yellow or whatever you want to call it. It is lime yellow, as says the auction. But it is the 100,000th listing on Bring a Trailer. So Bring a Trailer has been around for a while. This car has actually been through Bring a Trailer before. It says it was purchased April of 2018 on Bring a Trailer, and it is now the 100th auction. It is going up for charity. It has actually lived at the Bring a Trailer headquarters for a while. Super cool auction to watch, because Bring a Trailer has become so popular, and it's one of those things of when looking for classic cars or weird, quirky cars, you can't really look up values on, like, Kelley Blue Book, and you can't find them on Marketplace or Craigslist, so you're like, well, how much does a restored 73 Datsun 240Z go for? It's like, well, check Bring a Trailer, because they've probably done it.
And then when you find it with Bring a Trailer, it's actually a charity car, and therefore it's none of its representative.
It's totally skewed, because this one is currently up for $104,240, and the auction ends in 6 days. Bless you. So I think that this will...
Sneeze? I didn't hear anything.
You actually muted yourself? I'm quite impressed. So I don't know. I think this thing will probably go for, I don't know, 150, 175, something like that. It's for charity, so, you know.
I was going to say, it being for charity is always the best excuse.
Right. Nick, are we going old muscle car, or are we going 70s Overlander?
No. This Camaro, this 67 350 SS, is easily the cleanest 40K Camaro you will be able to find. It is the perfect hybridization between maintaining an original, beautiful car and making it a race car. Like, if I could, with the equivalent appeal, do what this guy did to his car to my 5th gen, I absolutely would. It is like, first of all, it's in one of the most beautiful shades of blue, period.
It's a very nice color.
The awesome white stripes around the front end. It's got a 4-speed. It's a manual. It's got the perfect... Ben, name a more perfect street-legal first-gen Camaro stance. It is sitting so perfectly on its American racing wheels. I mean... It is a beautiful car. And for 40 grand, this car is a fully restored, not restored to original, but fully restored...
Right.
Tastefully modified. Granted, it's a 67, I get that. But everything about this car, if you wanted a hybrid, an old school street racer that is done and made well, perfect. Literally, when I added it, it was at 25 grand. And I was
this thing is super cool. As a person who works on old muscle cars, and despite the fact that I work at a Mopar shop, I've probably spent most of my time working on old Camaros. They're super popular. They are the hot car right now. I've never been a huge fan of 67s. Personally, I'm a bit more partial to the 69s. I do like the gills on the side of the 69s. It's just a better looking car.
And the 5th gen.
Yes, and the 5th gen, which is basically a 69 Camaro.
Yes,
sure.
But better.
No, not at all. 40 grand for this is a super, super good buy. Paint looks nice.
If you bought a shell, if you were given a shell with a motor, so I guess not a shell, if you were giving a project car,
right,
you could not spend 40 grand and make it look half as good.
Right. And to be fair, that is the thing with old cars, is you will not make money on them if you restore them. I mean, yeah, this dude probably has
I
70,
guess. Yeah.
80 grand into this car, given that I've worked on a couple of these and I know what this kind of work goes for. I'm not a huge fan of the half cage, especially because it looks
like it.
well. If you look at the door picture with the door open and the seats, it looks like at one point it had door bars in it, and they just cut the door bars out. So I'm not a big fan of that.
Fair
but
enough.
Whatever.
Fair enough.
But I mean, yeah, super cool car, small block, 4-speed. Looks like it's got a 4.9-inch in the rear, which is super cool. Because this probably would have come with a 10-bolt from the factory. Still a leaf spring car. Yeah. Gaps look nice. I don't know that I'd have one with blue carpet and blue door panels, but
Oh, I love it.
super sick car. Nick, can I talk about my my cheater auction that I found? Is in the Bring Trailer auction. So this auction is well, it's one of my dream cars. So I am a massive Dodge Viper fan, as I think most Americans are. Well, this is a final year car. It's a 2017 Viper ACR Voodoo 2 edition. So the Voodoo edition was essentially a blackout package. It's got this super cool gray and red stripe on it. It's about as menacing as cars get.
Yeah.
So it is on RM Sotheby's. It's going up for auction this weekend on the 4th in Amelia Island, and it is expected to get $275,000 to $325,000 for this car.
Jeez.
The thing that I really liked about this was not only does it look the business, but I also forgot that the last Viper is now 6 years old. The newest Viper you can get is 6 years old, which is just crazy to me. So, I mean, the cars still look brand new, which is really good. I'm hoping that
they've aged really well. I saw one just the other day, too.
Yeah, I saw an ACR on the way to school last week, I think it was. So this thing is super cool. Nick, Patty, would you like to talk about an old version of one of your cars?
I would love to. A car I used to have, to be fair.
Sort of, kind of.
This is one of my favorite vintage vehicles you can buy. And I will say this, and Ben's going to disagree with me. I'm not a huge fan of the ones that are resto mods and made to be super cool off-roading tools. I like
because
them
Nick
in
doesn't have taste.
I like them in their original, fairly nerdy condition. But we were talking about a 1976 Toyota Land Cruiser FJ43. This one is in my favorite color, the color I had mine in. And by mine, I mean my 07 FJ, in yellow with the white roof and the white rear roof section. I was going through Bring a Trailer, and I could have picked more exotic cars. I could have
like I did.
Porsches or something like that.
The fact that you did it, I'm very impressed.
Well, I sat there and I was like, I'm gonna try to be as well-rounded. I have a go-kart, I have an off-roader, and I have a muscle car. I'm going to choose one of different categories. And so this is, listen, FJ40 and the subsequent 70s FJs have always been my favorite. You get the most iconic front grille. To me, they've always been cooler than Jeeps. Jeeps are for people that are just told that Jeeps are cool, and so they get a Jeep.
Because Jeeps are cool.
Defenders are for people who like Jeeps but are very rich. And then the Toyota just kind of sits in the background. And that's evidenced by the fact that even the most recent Toyota FJs have held their value so much. You can buy a 300,000-mile Toyota FJ from 06 or 07, and it still goes for close to 30 grand, which is absurd. Yep. But they're cult classics, and the cult classics started with this FJ. So super cool. It's been fully restored, as close to his original specifications as you can really hope for.
Yeah, it looks
in
super
my
nice.
favorite color combo, other than a military green or a really dark blue.
Sure.
You can do a lot with that. But yellow, such a good color. Looks good. It was only bid to 28 grand. It didn't sell. I'd be shocked if they had a reserve any lower than 40.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking as well, is this is probably, because FJs go for more money than Jeeps, and often for a bit more money than old Defenders.
Yeah, mostly because old Defenders are unfortunately pretty garbage in terms of
Pretty
reliability.
horrible. Well, actually, that's just because Defenders got really cheap at one point and no one maintained them.
Well, that's true.
That's the same reason why old Italian cars are notoriously
Porsche
unreliable.
996, is that what I'm hearing?
Well, that's the same reason why that late 80s, 90s, early 2000s supercars are notoriously unreliable. It's because at one point they got really cheap and people who maintained them didn't maintain them well. So that's why Defenders aren't good. If you have a Defender that runs well, it's about as good as vehicles. It's about as good as vehicles get. But this FJ is super clean. Personally, I'd have it with a black top, not a white top.
I like the white.
I mean, no, it looks great. I do like that it still has the factory-style bench seat. I like that it's a manual. I like that they didn't resto-mod it too much. I think old trucks like this should be kept this kind of nice, restored, original. It looks like it's got a nice sound system in. I see some speakers in the roof. And yeah, it's just tastefully done. Yeah, I would agree. If this thing had a reserve less than 40, probably 45 grand, I'd be very surprised. It's just one of those things of the old 4x4 overlanding market is just so saturated now because even things like 90s Broncos are so expensive now.
There's
been a couple,
all of it.
There's been a couple 93, 94 Broncos, which aren't even the good Broncos that I've seen on Bring a Trailer go for 40 or 50 grand. And it's they didn't cost that new. They've never cost that. They have no reason to be that expensive other than the fact that things like this have gotten so expensive. Good picnic. I like a nice overlander. And like Nick said, I too picked a well-rounded trio of vehicles. I picked an old sports car, a new sports car, and a newer, faster sports car. So to go along with my Datsun and my Voodoo Viper,
this one is definitely the most expensive.
For sure, the most expensive. I have picked a 2019 Ford GT Carbon Series. Now, this car, very pretty because it is gray with a black stripe and an orange stripe going down the middle with orange rims.
I think I'm going to bid on it. Screw it.
You
Why
should.
Not?
It's only at $940,000.
Like I said, I think I'm going to bid. Oh, wait. Right. There's a Cummins turbo diesel swapped Land Rover Defender. That is sick.
That's a better pick. I would have picked that over the Ford GT. But the reason I wanted to talk about the Ford GT is these are some cars that have increased in value so quickly. So a Carbon Series new was $600,000.
Which still is absurd.
Well, it's an absurd amount of money, but it's a very rare car.
Right.
Ford didn't make a lot of them. I think they only made 2,500 of the new body style GTs in total, and that was over a 4-5 year production run. The Carbon Series is more rare than a normal base Ford GT. I don't know that you can use the word base on a Ford GT.
Right.
But the only thing more rare is the weird heritage editions that got the liveries from the 60s Le Mans cars.
Livery, yeah.
The Golf liveries, that sort of thing.
Quick question.
Yes.
Mid-2000s Ford GT or the new one?
05 GT over most things.
I agree. Okay.
Over most.
I was going to say, I know the EcoBoost is great.
Oh, awesome. I mean,
the Ford GT fundamentally, what made the GT40 special,
giant V8,
was a
sketchy handling,
huge V8 that was way more capable than the rest of the car.
Right.
Which the new Ford GT is way more capable than the small displacement EcoBoost.
Right.
But I rest my case.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, these cars have just skyrocketed in value.
I don't know. They could have easily just, and I know that it's mid-engine versus front engine, but they make the 428 Cobra Jet motor for their drag cars, their Cobra Jet drag car. That's not the
slower.
Electric one, but it would be slower. But we're not
slower. It's a track car. That's its purpose now. In 1966, you needed a 428 to win races. In 2017, you don't. This is a proper modern Ford GT, I think. I actually quite like these. I think they're very good. I think the best option was the EcoBoost.
Except they sound like a gassy teenager after Taco Bell.
Yeah, I didn't say they sounded good, but they're awesome.
Okay,
So
we're just gonna
let that one go.
we're gonna move past this.
But I mean, I'm so impressed with how much these have increased in value. I would not be surprised if 20, 30 years from now these are selling for a couple seven-figure numbers. So that's super impressive. This is something we might do every occasional automotive episode.
Oh, I say we do it every episode because there's plenty of auctions.
Nick and I do have issues with Bring a Trailer. We like to hop on in our
Also, race cars for you or
spare
stock
moments
cars
in
direct.
the day.
Or
We could do that one. We could turn it into like a challenge thing of like you have $1 million.
different website.
Well, we need to do like you have $1 million, get like 5 cars or something like that. We'll turn it into a thing.
Have $1
now,
million,
Nick,
get 5 cars. How about I just get 1 and I'm happy?
we have a plethora of automotive news.
Yes.
So, I mean, and it's one of those things of we've just kind of stacked up automotive news from the past 2 weeks. And I think we're going to start at the top, and we have some Alfa Romeo news, which I'm sure Nick Patty will be very excited about as our fellow Italian. That wasn't Italian. So rumor has it that the next generation Alfa Giulia is going to be all electric. It supposedly have 1,000 horsepower.
Yes.
So Alfa Romeo is owned.
To be fair, I don't know why I'm so I shouldn't be excited. Anything that's electric is pushing that.
Everything that's
number.
electric has a bajillion horsepower now. They're all drag cars. They're not good at much else. So they're like, well, let's make it go 0 to 60 in half a second. And Americans will buy it.
What happens after 60? The battery runs out.
Battery runs out. Brakes, never heard of them. Handling, don't know where that went.
Yeah.
But so because Alfa is owned by, it's not Fiat Chrysler Association anymore, it's Stellantis.
Yeah.
Because they are owned by Stellantis, supposedly the next Giulia will be based on the same platform as Dodge's new electric muscle cars, or whatever you want to call them. And apparently it'll be available in 3 different platforms: a base with 345 horsepower, a Veloce with 745, and the Quadrifoglioli with 986 horsepower. So, which
I'm excited.
I mean, cool. Should be awesome. I'm sure it'll look incredibly pretty and probably break all the time because it's an Alfa. So do they still break? Do they break all the time?
No.
No.
That joke was maybe relevant when you were born, but not anymore.
Did Alfa exist when I was born? I thought Alfa had like a lapse in time.
Okay. All right. Well, next. Never mind. I don't care about Mini Cooper. You can take it.
No. Because, real quick, another thing on Alfa. The 6C, which we talked about a couple episodes ago, it would have been like episode like 30 or 32. The 6C, supposedly Alfa is coming out with a new sports car above the 4C, below the ever gorgeous 8C. Oh, it's rumored, has not been confirmed.
Right.
Like, it's an idea floating somewhere on a whiteboard, and apparently they've nearly sold out. Which I don't know how you can do that. I don't know how you can sell out something that doesn't exist or is going to exist.
That's called wire fraud. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm going to assume that somewhere on that whiteboard is a production number, and people have just started throwing money at Alfa Romeo dealerships, and Alfa Romeo dealerships are calling a small Italian man, and that small Italian man is like, yeah, you can sell another one, that's fine.
Giuseppe, can we sell another one?
Yeah. So, looks like Alfa Romeo is going to have a bright future. Now, Mini Coopers that Nick does want to talk about. Mini is trialing a 100% recycled aluminum wheel, which should be, honestly, I'm pretty excited about this. I know Nick has no interest in it. Nick just wants to talk about old V8s that go really fast and flat sixes that sound somewhat
Rev
good.
to infinity.
So Mini is trialing a 100% recycled aluminum wheel, which is super cool.
So now the Red Bull Mini Coopers that drive around and deliver Red Bulls can have wheels that were made out of Red Bull cans.
Out of Red Bull cans, exactly. And the wheel manufacturer called Renault saw a 75% decrease in the carbon footprint per wheel, which is super cool because, well, environment saving. Yay!
You know the phrase, don't reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, but you still get a wheel. So it's okay. Because it's not like Tesla who did it and you didn't get a wheel. Yes.
GM is in the middle of attempting to avoid pickup truck stockpiles similar to the backups that we saw during the COVID lockdowns. And when you say, so what are they doing to try to avoid it? GM has actually restricted a lot of the production numbers for their future vehicles on the assumption that the current sales numbers in terms of the units sold are going to continue at a relatively similar level. Because while there's occasional chip issues, I would say for the most part, we've gotten over the COVID problems, but the market has not quite rebounded for new vehicle purchases. So GM is lowering their production on that stuff. This is my favorite bullet point, this next one, of the entire episode.
Nick is very excited about this.
AutoNation is attempting to sell Renault cars in the United States, which means I can get, assuming I have the money, an Alpine A110 R Fernando Alonso edition, here's the thing. So that car's been made, but I don't actually know if it went on sale before Alonso left. So does it actually exist? Like, are there A110R Alonso editions, or are they now just all A110Rs?
I'm assuming they exist.
Well, if AutoNation sells them in the U.S., I am making this promise to everyone listening. I will buy one at some point before I die, and it will be wrapped in an 0506 Renault livery. And I'm going to take that to the track. Guaranteed.
If they don't exist,
Guaranteed.
if there are no Alonso editions, that does mean that there is a warehouse somewhere in France that is
with
full
a bunch
of seats.
Of Alonso seats.
With a bunch of seats that have Fernando Alonso stitched in them, and then 50 years from now, there will be a Bring a Trailer auction where it's the entire lot. 500 seats, and it's like, no, you have to buy all of them.
Yeah, you can't.
What am I going to do with 500 seats? And it's like, get 499 friends and give them some
It'll go for like
seats.
$200,000, and you're like, who does that?
Yeah. So here's my problem with that, though. I don't think Renault would do well in the United States.
Okay, well, I don't really care. I just need it to be legally viable for me to order a Alpine A110R. Moving on to Carvana, Jimmy Johnson will be sad. Their Q4 earnings for 2022, Q4, 1 quarter, that's 25%. That is 1/4 of 2022, was down $804 million. Let's round it up and call it $1 billion because it sounds cooler.
Yeah.
Carvana lost nearly $1 billion in a fourth of the year.
Well,
I have never heard of a company losing that much money in such a short amount of time.
This is that whole reinventing the wheel you were talking about a couple minutes ago, and it's that this is not a better wheel. Vending machines, awesome for Twix bars,
Dr. Pepper,
not
Mountain Dew,
not good for a Dodge Challenger. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're super cool to look at. I like the idea of a car vending machine. It's a very satisfying idea. But like, you need a lot of quarters to buy a Dodge Charger.
Speaking over 800, that was 804 million. Speaking of over 800, Nissan yesterday, the news was breaking that they recalled 809,000, and similar to the last point, let's just round that up and call it 1 million Nissan Rogues across the U.S. and Canada. So first of all, nearly 1 million.
Also, I didn't know that there were 800,000 Nissan Rogues in the world.
I'm gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, wait, just Rogues? Like, not just like Nissans, but Rogues.
Rogues.
So here's what they're being recalled over. And Ben, I want to ask you. Until push button start cars, how'd you start a car?
With a key, I believe.
Okay.
So it's you. I don't have one in my pocket at the moment, but you put it in. And then turn,
right,
and then you release, and the car just stays running. And then at some point, you go back to it, and then you turn the other way,
right,
and then you take it with you.
Okay,
so it's a very simple process.
Nissan had those just collapse spontaneously, just in your cars. You'd be going to put that ignition key in, and oh my God, it's broken, and it's just broken. And
McLarens do that, so yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you own a Nissan Rogue, you're actually in a 675 LT. Moving on. Man, I put a lot of these bullet points here. We're going to get to a point where it's basically all Ben. Volvo is moving towards developing all of their automotive software. So that's the navigation, that is the would ECU be considered the software that the ECU runs off of?
Engine mapping, transmission mapping,
all that stuff.
Everything.
Volvo is going to be basically, instead of outsourcing it, they're moving towards having it all be in-house. So all of the software across all of the vehicle's functions, across their entire range of vehicles, will all be Volvo.
I'm going to assume that also includes Polestar, because
I would assume
Polestar is a Volvo brand, but it's not a Volvo. Don't call it a Volvo. They get upset about that.
It is a Volvo. It's like calling an AMG something that's not a Mercedes. It's the same thing.
No, because they're not sold at Volvo dealerships. You actually have to order one. You can't buy one through Volvo.
Aside from their dealership structure, it's the same thing.
It's like calling an Alpine a Renault. It's like that. It's the same thing.
And it is. Right. Okay. So thanks. Moving on to Toyota. Toyota's production over last year has been upped. It has improved. It has grown by 8.4%. 2023 Ford Escape production has been delayed over software issues. So speaking of software, which again, guys, not a brand new concept. Granted, software is a lot newer than the key, but it's not brand new, guys. All right. So Ford has been having problems with software. Also, on Ford Escape specifically, I don't understand what about a Ford Escape software is so unique other than maybe the engine mapping, like you said.
To be fair, I don't think I've actually heard of a new car that doesn't have software issues. I think they all have them.
Right. Well, apparently this is a big enough deal that...
Because there's so
it's
many.
Making headlines. Right.
So.
Toyota GR engineers...
I'm stoked about this.
I'm going to tag Jeremy Clarkson on the clutch dump, and I'm going to clip the part of this episode where you say I'm so stoked about this, and then I'm going to send it to Clarkson so he can.
No, because you know what the problem is going to be? It's going to be good. That's the problem.
If you're wondering why I'm upset, Ben Walther is excited for a GR variant of the Prius.
Yeah, why not?
Ben, do you know who typically owns a Prius? People that couldn't tell you what GR is.
Yeah, they made a GR Corolla.
But you almost got me. You almost made me fall for it. But hot hatches is a pre-made market segment. There are people that are hot hatch enthusiasts.
A Prius is a hatchback.
It's not hot.
Neither is a Corolla.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Now, no, not looks. Hot hatch refers to performance.
Yeah, and the Corolla's a hot hatch.
Now that it's a GR Corolla.
Right, but a base Golf isn't a hot hatch. The GTI is a hot hatch.
Right, the base Corolla is not a hot hatch. The GR is. The base Prius is not a hot hatch.
The Prius is a fundamental concept. Goes again. Okay, I'm moving on.
No,
we are.
So here's the thing: the Prius and the Corolla,
electric car bits. How did we already cover that? Did you put the Alpha stuff twice? You did.
So the Prius, I just muted Nick. He doesn't know yet. So the Prius is based on the Corolla chassis. So technically, they can just put a Prius body on a GR Corolla, and then it's okay. I'll let Nick have a voice again. Nick, welcome back to the podcast.
So yeah, Fisker's teased the exterior of the upcoming Pear, the personal electronic automotive revolution EV, which if you are someone that's around my age that watched Nickelodeon at all, there was a phone in iCarly called the Pear. So Fisker is basically ripping off iCarly. Expect the lawsuit.
Never seen it.
Fisker has received 5,600 reservations for the Pear. As of end of February, the range topping variant should have 300 plus miles of range and start at 29.9. They've also announced that the projected range for the Ocean is greater than anticipated. Quote, the Ocean will have the longest range of any SUV/crossover below 70 grand with 360 miles of range, end quote. Fisker could finish the year with the positive EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, which... For the love of God, people, can you not just use regular words? Like, hey, the Fisker might finish making money.
I included just because it's basically just saying Fisker's going to make money. But I just found it so funny that they're like, no, we have to use acronyms. We can't
just say after production costs. It's got to be taxes. Well, but there's more than taxes. What about depreciation? Okay, let's add that. Okay, well, after depreciation, there's amortization.
Oh my gosh.
Sure.
So, Fisker might actually be a company again, which I'm super stoked for.
Which is a shame, because I wish Fisker was a real company to the point where they were making money consistently for the karma.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I've seen, 4, maybe 5 in existence, and that's, and most of them are probably before it was Fisker, back when it was just the Karma.
Right.
Because Karma was a company before it was Fisker.
I would own a Fisker Karma, or just a Karma.
I think it's a great looking car. It looks outstanding.
And it'll be a classic for sure, because they made so few of them, and it was really kind of...
Yeah, I think...
It's not that it started anything for EVs, but Fisker was like the first, in the 20th century, the first kind of bespoke private automotive manufacturer that was trying to take on, like, okay, so there's Weissman, right, that makes their bespoke performance cars, and Weissman never made headlines, but Fisker came onto the scene as a small startup, made headlines, and wasn't just trying to make super high-end performance vehicles like Pagani. They were trying to make consumer sedans, consumer coupes and stuff that were more widespread. And so I really hope Fisker kind of comes back to the forefront, because I think they deserve to be there. So,
sorry, I think this is wrong, because Fisker made the Karma. Okay. Fisker no longer exists. The company is now... Sorry, Fisker still exists. The company that makes the Karma is not Fisker. Different brands. I forgot.
I just saw the hot GT3. Sorry.
Okay.
What were we saying?
hopefully Fisker turns into a viable brand and they stick around for a bit longer, and they're kind of like a Lucid or a Rivian. Nissan has announced that they will launch 19 new EVs in the next 7 years. I didn't know that we needed 19 new EVs from Nissan in the next 7 years, but thank you.
Well, I didn't know we needed 19 new EVs, and then also from Nissan.
And they have also announced that they will launch 8 additional electrified models, which means hybrids. So what are you looking at? What is this?
No, I'm just saying ooh, electrified.
Oh, that was just an ooh. But big news that Ben is very excited about. Ford is taking Supervan 4 to Pikes Peak. If you're unfamiliar with...
Ben is more excited about, not that it's news, but he hopes Daniel Ricciardo will be driving it.
Why not? They have the perfect opportunity.
Max did drive it in a promo
really
thing when they announced Ford coming back.
Max drove it in a promo video. They have Daniel. Why can't we put the crazy Aussie in the crazy American van and put it up the
mountain?
Why not? Perfect
See
recipe.
at the top, Danny.
Perfect. So Supervan 4 is going to Pikes Peak. If you're unfamiliar, there'll be a picture here. It's a transit van. It's not a transit van. It looks like a transit van, kind of, but it makes 2,000 horsepower because it's super cool. And Ford has also teased that a new AV will be unveiling next month, and it will be named the Explorer. I'm assuming that it will be in addition to the current Explorer. I'm assuming it will not be replacing it, because soccer moms everywhere would be enraged. Nick, Lordstown.
Yeah, I literally only remember Lordstown from the episode we did announcing their truck. Maybe episode 4 of the Clutch Dump. We were talking infancy stages. And shocker, another privately funded EV startup is not doing well.
Wow.
Ooh.
Never heard of that one before.
It poses the question. EVs have all of the PR backing. They have government grants, government subsidies. They have public support. They have, in the eyes of most people, the future. It's one of those things where it's not that it's an emerging technology that they're just trying to prove that they're better. Everybody's already saying EVs are the future. All you got to do is just figure out how to produce a vehicle, which I don't understand how it's this difficult, because the parts may be different and how they go together may be different. But the fundamental idea of the production process for a vehicle is the same. And I don't know what is causing these EV startups to say, oh, we're here, we have one concept truck, and then just fall apart as soon as anybody orders them.
Well, production is the hardest part, because as a person who builds vehicles, building one is very easy to do. You have to build one, it has to work, you make sure it works. The problem is replicating it quickly, and efficiently and in a cost-effective manner.
But here's the thing, is I think these EV brands are biting off way more than they can chew. It's their fault if they accept more orders than they can reasonably produce. I don't know why so let's say you're Lordstown. Let's say, and I'm just making up numbers here, you got 1,000 truck orders in your first year. Maybe say, all right, we're going to have to put a lot of these on several-year backhold, and we're going to make, because we can make consistently 250 a year. Then just limit your orders to 250 a year. Don't, but it's like, oh,
because it's the Tesla idea, and the reason why Tesla, which we'll get to in a minute, why Tesla unveils so many new cars and groundbreaking technologies and takes orders for so many things, is when you're an EV startup and you unveil this new thing and you get a bunch of people to give you money for it, the government is more likely to give you money to fund your company. So
you have more funding. Let's use it efficiently.
It's still not enough, dude. I mean, here's the thing. A startup...
But then that goes back to the earlier point, which is, then let's just abort... Then, don't get into it. Wait until this EV technology is accessible enough to the point where you can actually run a business it's not
the technology. It's the production. The production is the problem.
But my point is the technology is what allows the production to become efficient or not. So if they don't have the resources, and that could be technology, that could be money, that could be both, that could be personnel, then you're not in a position to run a business, and you shouldn't have my point is it shouldn't be, oh no, we've made 15 and now we know that we can't produce these vehicles. You should know that before you start production, so you're not taking money from these people, and you're not, because otherwise what happens is kind of what happened to Fisker, in that you start the brand, it kind of sputters, and then it just kind of dies. And those investors don't get their money back. The taxpayers don't get their money back from government grants. It's just so annoying, because you can have startup brands like Pagani or Roof that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, start up, and they made granted, the only difference is those are internal combustion, and they're not making production cars. Right, they're made as performance cars. But the idea of the low production numbers allowing or ensuring the quality being there should be applied like it is for exotic luxury cars or performance cars in the EV space, because at the end of the day, you are appealing to people that are in the upper echelon of financial income. You're appealing to people that have the luxury of being able to buy into this technology. So doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Somehow Porsche got it down.
Here's the thing.
Well, they have more money. Then don't start production unless you have the right amount of money. Done. End of story.
You start a car company to make money. So, here's the thing, though.
Right, but if you don't have the money to start it, then it doesn't start.
No one has the money to start a business. That's how businesses work. So, for starters, every car company...
If you can't make the product, then the business doesn't exist. And I'm saying it's so stupid that it's time after time these EV companies will see other EV companies start and then fail, start and then fail. And it's maybe you get all your ducks in a row before you start spending all the production budget.
But there is no EV startup that makes good cars, except for Lucid, but Lucid has issues. Rivian has issues. Tesla's
Rivian doesn't have nearly the issues that Lordstown does, and they're literally making the same product, an EV
It's because Rivian was the first ones to do trucks. Rivian was the first one in the market.
Right.
Lucid is a better Tesla. Tesla was, Tesla.
And the Taycan's a better Tesla.
But Taycan's a Porsche. Porsche has money that they can lose. Porsche can take losses.
But this goes... Well, they can take losses, but this goes back to the earlier point, which is with government backing, all the positive press about EVs before we get to the point where it
Right.
becomes accessible and like, oh my God, they're actually bad for the environment because of lithium-ion batteries and they don't decompose and all this stuff.
Well, eventually they become good for the environment.
There will never be a more open and encouraging environment for EVs.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't get the funding now, I don't think they will, which then goes back to the EV market is only a market for pre-existing automotive brands, and these startups should just try to sell their technology or their designs to these existing brands because they're not going to be able to make a full-scale production brand and compete with Porsche or Tesla or...
The problem with EVs is they're too expensive right now, and you have
but that
to...
goes back to the technology hasn't come about to make them cheaper.
Well,
The
but
production costs is too much.
Well, production cost is too much, and buying one is too expensive. I mean, like,
Right.
what? Like, a Model 3 starts at, like, 40 grand or something like that?
A
And it's
little
like,
bit more than that.
Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. And it's like, you can go buy, like, 100 other cars that are cheaper than that. And the other thing is electric cars. We've fixed range. Range isn't a problem anymore. It's easy to get an EV that does 250, 300 miles. I don't know that I probably do that, but I do that in a week. And it's one of those things of like, right now, range anxiety isn't a thing. Infrastructure anxiety is a thing. There's nowhere to charge them. If you don't live in a house, you can't charge it at home. If you live in an apartment, you can't have one, that sort of thing.
Well, so let's circle back to something that you talking about this is, as I'm thinking about it, it's helping me kind of streamline my thoughts. So for these startups, if you want to start a business, that's fine. Spend years designing, developing. I don't think you should start the production of the car until the technology gets to a point where it's affordable. And when I say technology, what I'm really saying is the technology that goes into the EV batteries requires a level of production that makes it too expensive for a lot of brands and for a lot of people. So if you're an EV brand, what's wrong with coming out with design, releasing a concept to the public, saying this is the vehicle we're going to be developing, but we're only going to release it when we can sell it under this price point, rather than we're just going to spend whatever it costs to make a couple, maybe a dozen, maybe 2 dozen, 3 dozen, but we're going to fall drastically short of our promised production numbers. Oh, and then, by the way, the cost of it, they're going to have to upcharge to try to make back their losses, which hurts their stock, it hurts the investors, and it hurts the consumers that ordered one, and then they get a vehicle that's half developed, half thought through, because they weren't able to actually faithfully follow through with the production of the vehicle. Why not just wait 5 years or 3 years? Who knows how quickly development goes?
Because the car will be irrelevant at that point. The problem is that, like, here's the thing.
But the brand will have already taken up some market share in the sense that they've taken orders, but don't create the car until you can actually satisfy those orders. My parents were on a 2-year wait list for a Defender. They had sent the money in for a Defender. And a Defender is not an EV. That is a easy car to make for Range Rover. But they're like, you know what? We have these production numbers. We can only do so many at a time. This is when you can expect it. If you're an EV maker,
well, that's because COVID and they just can't get parts.
Well, but so why not use the same philosophy? And instead of the reason being we can't get parts is we can't actually ensure that they're going to be functioning or that they're going to be reliable or that they're going to be up to our standards. Like, I don't think any consumer is going to sit there and if the brand goes, we were entrusted with your investment and your hard-earned money, and we're not going to give you a vehicle unless we know it meets our standards of quality. I don't see a consumer going, oh my God, I'm so upset.
Because people are idiots and because people don't want to wait 2 years for a car.
But then go buy a Tesla. That's my point.
Right, and that's the problem, is startups won't survive. That's the problem, is once all the big OEMs, once Porsche starts making electric cars, because we know they're coming out with an electric Boxster, they're going to come out with a cheaper Taycan. The Macan and the Cayenne are going to go electric. Ford has the Mach-E right now and the Lightning is currently Rivian's biggest problem, so Rivian isn't doing well at the moment. And then Chevy and Dodge are already coming out with electric cars. And the problem is,
let me rephrase my thing.
They already have a brand following.
Consumers, stop buying startups so they just stop trying to make new EVs. Because the only reason these people are doing these startups is purely because they're like, I can make a shit ton of money. And I'm just going to make them just go work for a bigger brand that is already making EVs. Because, okay, and maybe I'm just mad at the investors. I don't know why they're investing as much money as they are when they're not getting their money back. And it's not even my money. I don't care. It's just frustrating to have all these like, oh, brand new EV company. And you kind of don't hear about them for like a year or two. And then it's like, hey, we made like 30 and we promised a few thousand. Oops.
Well, like, I mean, but that's how Tesla was. When the Roadster came out, the Roadster, which came out in like what,
right.
08, 09, something like that. The Roadsters are horrible vehicles.
No, I know.
Horrible vehicles. And here's the thing.
I don't think Tesla should be around.
Teslas are still horrible vehicles. The problem is that Tesla has the power of the internet.
Right. Well, and Elon Musk.
But like, right, for some reason. But, I mean, like, the problem is that EV startups have to start now, because by the time that all the OEMs have made all these electric cars, startups will be relevant. Because here's the thing. Like, my family has owned, like, 11 Fords or something like that. That's why we have an electric Ford, is because
startups will be irrelevant if they're only going after broad consumer cars. But the same way that there are luxury or performance automotive brands, I don't understand why if you're an EV startup, you can't say, you know what, this just isn't working. We're surveying the space, we're surveying the market. Too many startups are coming in, having a flash in the pan, and then disappearing. Why not say, you know what, we're going to make EVs in low quantities that are the nicest quality and the most reliable, and that's our selling point, regardless of the production. But it seems like
that does exist. It's called Lucid.
But Lucid is trying to get into the like, not commuter car, but the just general like sedan market. Rather
the cheapest Lucid you can buy is $100,000. The cheapest Lucid. The least expensive sedan you can buy is $100,000.
The answer is just buy Porsche. Just get a Taycan. End of story. All right. Speaking of EVs, Ben.
Yes.
Cadillac is rolling out 3 new EVs for 2024.
Yes.
Subaru had significant profits last year and is expected to unveil their first EV models of this decade. And Ben, speaking of another EV that blows, go ahead and read the next bullet point because that's yours. Just going to prove my point.
I don't think Nick realizes that, like, what's the statistic? Like, 78% of automotive companies fail.
Yes.
Like,
so
for
when
example,
do they stop trying?
Pontiac, Mercury have all failed. Lamborghini's been bankrupt
but Pontiac
like 100
and Mercury
times.
made millions of dollars over decades.
Exactly, and they still failed. And Ford has been bankrupt like 8 times. Chevy's been bankrupt like 1 million times. Dodge has been bankrupt about 8 billion times. All automotive companies struggle. They don't work.
Yes, but companies Chevy didn't fail 2 years in.
Companies lose money on cars all the time. That's why startups are so hard. That's why you should have a startup, because you might build cool shit. Anyway, Nikola failed EV truck delivery expectations, resulting in a 5% stock share drop. So Nikola built 133 trucks, and we're not referring to like F-150 size trucks. These are like semi-trucks. They built 133, but only delivered 20.
Which means they couldn't just tow enough of them.
In 2023, they hope to deliver 250 to 350 of their battery trucks and a minimum of 125 fuel cell
So let me
trucks.
see this. Let me see. If they, out of 150, delivered 33... Wait, where was it?
133, they delivered 20.
Oh, they made 133, they delivered 20. So that's, So then out of 300, they're going to deliver maybe 60. Cool. It's just...
I don't know why I have a podcast with this guy. Be positive, Nick.
Dude, all they have to do is tow the damn truck. And they can't figure that out. Like, this is not stuff that's new. It has nothing to do with the fact that
you
it's an
don't
EV.
know why they didn't deliver it. You don't know.
Well, delivery assumes that the product was done, made, and ready for delivery.
Assumes, yes.
Well, they didn't come out and say, well, it wasn't that we just couldn't deliver it. It's that we had a problem, which you would think they would.
No, because delivery sounds better than our shit's broken. The Gullwing door DeLorean Alpha
Lord.
5 has had its production cut down to just 4,000 units. So the 4,000.
Wow! Another EV had.
The 4,000 units. So the 4,000 units will be built over 5 years. A build slot currently costs $2,500. Once those 4,000 units are sold, the build slot for the next 500 cars will increase to $3,500, and every 500 cars after that, it'll increase by $500, so on and so forth. There'll be a picture of the Alpha 5 up on the screen because I think it's a gorgeous car, and I think, I think DeLorean's. The DMC-12 is horrible, but I think an electric DeLorean would be super cool. Nick, are you done throwing your tantrum? Are you done? I can't hear you, so I'm just a nod would be enough. Are you good? Okay. We have some Tesla news. So Tesla is cutting costs of EV cars, but Audi has stated that they are not softening EV price points. Elon Musk and Tesla are being sued. Over self-efficacy claims, and Tesla is struggling to stay ahead of a competition with Rivian, Lucid, Porsche, and others getting into the EV pool. So this is that thing we talked about earlier, and that is Tesla. Tesla was really the first, but as other big OEMs like Porsche and Ford and Dodge and Chevy and Mercedes and everyone else gets into EVs, people who are more comfortable with owning OEMs that they've owned in the past and trust those brands and have some brand loyalty to are more likely to do that than to jump ship to something like a Tesla, a Rivian, or a Lucid.
Also, the next bullet point is Fernando's wittily hitting the Gwitty right now.
I don't know why we keep bringing that up. It's horrible.
Oh, it's never dying.
It's horrible, dude. It's horrible. And then one last thing, which Nick is really not excited about, but keep scrolling. It's all the way down. So I'm going to throw this in at the end because we're only at 56 minutes. So I came across this because it's super cool. There will be a video of it here. Some psychopath put a 4.5-liter flat plane crank Ferrari V8 out of an F430 into the front of a Subaru WRX STI rally car, and it sounds the business, and I deeply hope to have video someday of that thing sliding across a dirt road through the woods, and it should be lovely. So for your hearing pleasure, flat plane crank Subaru.
Also, I think, you know what, Ben? I said you couldn't have your build of the week because then it would turn into the build of the day and then the build of the hour. But I think you can have your build of the week if I can have Nick's paint to sample of the week, where I find a new paint to sample Porsche that's been unveiled or purchased, and then I show off how beautiful it is.
We can do that. Do you want to talk about the gold one? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. I'll put a picture of the gold one up here.
So somebody ordered a GT3 Touring.
Which is the one to get?
I think it was called Solar Flare something or another. Let me look real quick. It was Explosive Gold Chroma Flare. It is basically the color off of the Stelvio Veloce, which my mom has. And this car has the black center lock wheels with the edge of the rim being paint matched, and it looks so good. Now, I think he went a little basic on the interior because it's just black. Houndstooth would have looked nutty in this. And then on the side, the door sills?
Door cards.
It says it's not just a car.
It's pretty good.
It is. I would have to say, like, one of my top 3 favorite all-time Porsche paint to sample colors. And the other thing that I love about the GT3 Tourings is the fact that valance inside the front bumper is color matched to the car rather than being black plastic. Ben, I can send it to you again on Instagram if you want to.
I have it. I follow PTSRS on Instagram.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Well, Nick, Patty, after your gold Porsche, do you have anything to add to episode 38 of
the only other thing I have to add is PTSRS also posted, and this is what I made the face at earlier. You're like, what? Do you see something? The slate gray GT3 with the yellow calipers and the white stripe down the door.
That's good.
Oh, and then the NATO Olive GT4 RS, hot. And then what you showed me, but that copper brown turbo.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Just buy a take on.
Oh yeah. By the way,
the name of this episode should just be EVs ? Just buy a take on.
Yeah, by the way, good follow on Instagram, PTSRS. They post all of the
and the clutch
paint
dump
to sample things. Yeah, follow the clutch dump first and then go follow PTSRS. Well, I think that's going to about do it for episode 38 of the Clutch Dump, our most recent automotive episode. As Nick said at the top of the show, make sure you go follow us on all the socials at the Clutch Dump on Instagram, whatever audio platform you're listening to us on, whether that's Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Pandora, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Make sure you give us a follow, give us a rating, give us a review. It helps us out very much to find a bigger audience. If you're watching this on YouTube, hello. Make sure you subscribe, like, share the video, turn on that notification bell so you can know when we drop our latest episode. As always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been episode 38 of The Clutch Dump. We'll see you next time.